Crew, there's no question, is one of our most historic sports.
It's been a hallmark sport at this school back from like the early 1900s.
It remains one of the only sports now at Nobles where you can show up your first day of Nobles never having touched an oar or been on an erg, and crew gets them the opportunity to feel that level of success that many of our other athletes get.
We have kids come here as freshmen and try this new activity out and leave as Division I athletes. You can't really do that with a lot of sports here.
It's a program where you move as a crew and you win as a crew. There's just such a great esprit de corps. It's great fun.
So when I started at Nobles, we were rowing on this body of water, this section of the Charles that runs right through campus. And it was convenient to be on campus, but it was not convenient to row through the bridges that we row through.
It's long been an issue, but it was manageable before, but they renovated the bridges.
The arches were made rather narrow and long.
It's completely impractical and unsafe for crews to pass through, unfortunately, now.
If you asked anybody in the rowing world, would you send kids through these bridges, they'd probably think you were crazy.
And we had a couple concussions where the kids' oar got caught on the arch, or it would come back and hit them in the head. It's not like they caught a crab. Their oar hit a cement abutment, and you can't really do anything about that.
And that was made worse by the fact that even if you could get through the bridges, the water space you get to on the other side of the bridges really isn't that great.
You go through this kind of terrifying situation to get to a body of water that is tiny.
It's a small stretch of river.
Roughly 2,000 meters long from end to end.
With two significant S-curves taking up most of that space. So there's maybe a 600-meter stretch in the middle that you could call straight. It's not that wide.
And we also share that body of water with the Dexter Southfield programs.
So we just weren't getting very good practices in. In my first year as head coach, I don't think a single practice went exactly as I had planned it logistically. Practices always have interruptions, but I just couldn't get done what I wanted to do.
You would run into, end of the season where all of a sudden you're pulling up tons of weeds on your skeg 2 weeks out of NERA, and we're trying to start our taper, and you're essentially weightlifting as you're going through the motions of rowing.
Crowded, shallow, and clogged with weeds, so it became just unworkable as a space.
It just wasn't a situation where we felt like we were giving the kids the best situation and water space possible to compete with the schools that we compete with.
One thing that really matters to me as the athletic director is that at the end of every season, I want to be able to look at all of the coaches within our programs and know that we have done everything we could to allow them to succeed at the highest level they wanted to achieve. And I will say honestly that for many years at the start of my tenure as the athletic director, we couldn't look at our crew coaches and say that. They were at significant disadvantages compared to other programs that had really grown, endowed their programs, purchased new equipment, gave them more time year-round to train, a whole bunch of different areas where we were really disadvantaged. And for me, it created a real sense of urgency.
If we were going to achieve what we wanted to achieve as a program, we needed to row on a new stretch of water.
We found a section of the Upper Charles that's really uninhabited.
The specific opportunity came up in several conversations with community rowing, who were also looking to establish a satellite site. And together we negotiated with LaSalle College for the opportunity to share the boathouse with them and community rowing.
Currently we practice out of the Stoller Boathouse off of the Mass Pike in Newton. The boathouse itself has 3 bays. It's very basic, but it's really the body water over there that is the best part of the whole situation. It's about 5,000 to 6,000 meters out in one direction, and then you've got the same distance obviously coming back. You have 2 long sort of race sections of the river. One section is 1,500 meters long and one section is just under 1,300 meters long. And so the great thing about the course over there is that we can all stay out of each other's way, and it's just Nobles over there. So when the Nobles girls and the Nobles boys are practicing together, I can go for an entire practice and only pass a couple of boats that are far enough away that they're not going to inconvenience my practice, and I'm not going to feel like I'm waking them out and making them stop and wait for my wake to go by, which is something we often ran into on the body of water here at Nobles.
It's luxurious for us. As coaches who've dealt with a body of water before, it's pretty incredible to be in a space that you can actually log enough meters.
The old adage, miles makes champions. We were well behind other schools in terms of just how much time we got to spend on the water.
Last season on our new water space, almost every single practice went exactly as planned with time to spare and space to spare. just made a huge difference. I mean, the results spoke for themselves.
People who didn't know the crew program very intimately, I think were a little like, oh wow, where'd all this newfound success come from? And it's because we got to row on water. We got to train properly on the water. There's no substitute for that. So that change in location made a huge impact in both programs.
It started early, as if from nowhere. We knew in the team that we were fast, but I don't think anybody else expected. And so the boys were the top American crew at the head of a Charles and turned many ahead in terms of where did Nobles come from.
It really gave us confidence going into the year that we were a team to compete with and that we were the team to beat. And so surprising a crew like Belmont Hill, who constantly thinks that Nobles is someone they don't need to think about, and really kind of giving it to them at the head of the Charles was really, really fun. Coming into the season and into the new boathouse, it was really exciting to have the kids see the space for the first time. They were really pumped about it. Our goal going into this last season was to get all 4 boats in the finals of NERA, and we accomplished that, and it was something that we haven't done in a long, long time, and it was something that I think really helped them buy into Nobles crew and a successful program and wanting to be part of something that could help them leave their legacy while they're at Nobles.
The girls had a tremendous year. We came second in the Points Trophy, as it's called, in New England, which is the best we've done for a long, long time. From a team and from the coach's perspective, we take great pride in is that we performed so well across the team in the different boats. We achieved 3 medals at the New England Championships, all silver, which was just tremendous, and we hadn't medaled for quite a few years. So we had a great season.
Last year was the first year in a long time that both the girls and the boys program qualified for nationals, and to do as well as we did at nationals is pretty exciting.
And we've been really lucky under the leadership of Blair, but really in effect with all of our coaches and with tremendous help from Nobles grad and famous rower Kurt Somerville, who's been a huge factor for us, to build this relationship with CRI, to build this relationship with LaSalle College, to have our new position on the water in Newton, in which we could argue that there are few schools in New England now that have a better stretch of water to work on every single day than our kids have the opportunity to row on. And I feel a real obligation to ensure that student athletes for years and years to come get to have that type of experience that those previous generations have had. And I think we've got that fix in place, but endowing it so that we can afford it on an annual basis is critical.
Rowing is a capital-intensive sport. Versus all other sports at Nobles, its demand on the budget is probably greater than most. If you take a look behind me, you'll see boats that people that have been out of the program 20 years will remember and say, I rowed in that boat. Our equipment, by a significant factor, is some of the oldest equipment in New England. Until quite recently, we just were not refurbishing our fleet because boats are expensive. And when you're spending money on other elements, whether that's ergometers, whether that's rowing blades, putting out the extra significant sum of money for a new boat just becomes a really difficult pill to swallow. And so it's one that we just haven't been able to do, and as a result, these are boats that should have been put out to pasture many years ago, but we're still having to make them work. We've been incredibly fortunate in the last year or two to get a new boat on the boys' side and a new boat on the girls' side. As you saw from the results, it makes all the difference now of just adding that extra 1%, that extra 2% to the team.
Psychologically, it makes a huge difference for the guys. When you get those new oars, you get the new boat, you can feel how much more your energy is actually going into boat speed and it's not being lost. That makes a big difference. The equipment is designed to be used in a certain way, and when used properly, it does last for a long time. The problem is we're out there in the elements, and so the boats, they do tend to get weathered over time. So just having a boat that is young and fresh is going to make a difference between winning and losing.
It's a whole different tone when you get kids stepping into a new boat for the first time. The confidence that you can see is really obvious when they're sitting in a new shell.
And that's really crucial, I think, to get the most out of them, is making sure that they understand that you're giving them the best chance to win. And that's the right water space, that's the right coaching, that's the right motivation, but it's also the boathouse, the oars, the boats, all that stuff, just making sure that they're understanding that the school and the coaches are taking this seriously and that we're giving them every opportunity to win.
There are countless material items, from the lease that we pay by using the boathouse on an annual basis, the $15,000 a year we spend on transportation going to and from LaSalle College in a season. You add to that crew boats are anywhere from $20,000 to $30,000 a piece, that oars cost $1,200, that every Cox box costs $500. This is an incredibly expensive sport, and despite the cost, nobody questions how important this sport is and how important it is for us to sustain the sport for the long term.
We're far from done, unfortunately. We have still a lot of needs on the equipment side. On the boathouse side, it's not a boathouse, but really can sustain and house 3 programs comfortably. It's everybody's intent that as soon as we can, in the next few years, embark on a major project to rebuild that boathouse.
Last year we were just thanking our lucky stars we had a new body of water. It's tight over there.
Getting a boathouse that you can do the land training, have a space for your ergometers, have changing facilities, shower facilities, all of this, which doesn't currently exist, will just be an enormous step forward for all programs, most notably ours.
I'm immensely grateful for the change we've had, but there's a long way to go in terms of making it a truly functioning boathouse in a way that you see all our competitors have.
We've always had great, strong male and female rowers for whom the crew experience meant a tremendous amount. The relationships they built with their coaches were incredibly special. The discipline they gained from the sport was incredibly special. This is one of the most important activities and offerings we have on campus for all the right reasons. It's a great, healthy sport. It's a great opportunity for kids to build relationships with one another. And as a sports purist, I can argue that there are few sports in which team matters more. And as an AD, it's a really important thing for me and for our school to support. And the endowment allows us to make sure that we're putting them in championship situations and in championship equipment to be able to compete at the highest level they would like.